While most countries place the currency symbol either before or after the amount, the Cape Verdean escudo places its symbol in the decimal position, i.e. $20. This is the only wrong way to do it. NASA's plan to dispose of corpses in space is to freeze them in the airlock and then violently shake the body with a robotic arm until it turns to space dust. There is a part of the shoe called the vamp, and the act of replacing this part to make your shoe look nice again is to revamp it. Apple has a patent for a round pizza box and has been using these boxes in their campus cafeteria for years. Koala bears' fingerprints are almost indistinguishable from human fingerprints. A forensic scientist suggested that whilst it's unlikely a koala be present at the scene of the crime, police can't rule out its possibility. Disney World is the second largest purchaser of explosives in the United States. The first is the United States Department of Defense. Many of the Star Wars scenes had to be retaken since the actors had a habit of making lightsaber noises. The depictions of the Mayfair in The Sopranos were so accurate, the real members thought they were being spied on. These conversations were heard when the FBI were indeed spying on them. A 2-year study showed that washing hands 5 times a day reduced incidences of respiratory infections by 45%. Wash your hands, people. Sweden has a speed camera lottery. You are entered into it if you drive at or under the speed limit. The prize money comes from the fines paid by those who speed. Average speed was reduced by 22% after this was introduced. When pimps get arrested, their money can be confiscated but their jewelry can't. That's why they tend to wear a lot, so they can repawn it for bail money. Some farmers in Bangladesh have decided to switch from raising chickens to raising ducks instead since during floods, ducks float. Cigarette butts are environmentally toxic and are the most littered item in the world. A man who was paralyzed from a surfing accident neck injury was able to walk again from an experimental treatment. Stem cells from the man's own stomach fat were injected into his spinal cord to regenerate and repair the injury. Queen Elizabeth has met 12 US presidents during her reign, which is over a quarter of all presidents since the United States inception. The human brain remains half awake when sleeping in a new environment for the first time, hence why most of us feel very tired the next day. A woman once won a contest and was promised a Toyota but was actually given a Toyota. The woman obviously sued the company and was in the end given her Toyota. Dabbing is illegal in Saudi Arabia. Dabbing was made illegal by Saudi's National Committee for Drug Control as it was deemed that it alludes to cannabis and other illegal substances. Shrek was originally given a thick Canadian accent by Mike Myers, but after animation had finished, and the dialogue almost finished, Myers decided that the character be better portrayed with a Scottish accent. It cost over $4 million to reanimate the film. In Singapore, people who opt out of donating their organs are put on a lower priority to receive an organ transplant than those who did not opt out. 2 doctors saved a woman's life on an airplane by performing mid-air surgery on her with a coat hanger and silverware. They also used cognac to sterilize the equipment. It was on flight and they couldn't land the plane as a drop in air pressure could kill her. A former slave, Jordan Anderson, was asked to come back and work again for his old master. He replied with a letter asking for 52 years back pay as proof of good faith. The NFL created a committee to falsify information to cover up brain damage in their players. Elvis Presley's manager would regularly sell "I Hate Elvis" badges as a way to make money from people who weren't buying Elvis merchandise. Audi had to make more durable car horns for Indian market cars, due to the amount of horning Indians managed to do. The Pentagon is the world's largest office building with around 620,000 plus square meters of space, and that's not including the secret parts. There is a blood type called right hand null, which is called golden blood. This blood is so rare that only approximately 43 people worldwide have it. Its properties make it attractive in numerous medical applications and make it very valuable. An orca's senses are so developed that they can tell a woman is pregnant before she can. Brake and tail lights are red since this color has the highest wavelength spectrum, making it visible in longer distances, even with fog. A neuroscientist determined the most feel-good song of all time. The winner was Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. In Die Hard, the robbery of the Federal Reserve was so plausible, the FBI questioned the screenwriter as to how he had such intimate knowledge of the vaults. 20,000-year-old fossilized human footprints were found in Australia, which indicated that the man who made them was running at the speed of a modern Olympic sprinter, barefoot, in sand. Nicolas Cage's actual name is Nicholas Kim Coppola. He chose his stage name based, on part, on his favorite comic book character, Luke Cage. Benedict Cumberbatch was abducted by 6 men with guns while filming for a show in South Africa. However, after 4 hours they simply let him go. He says the ordeal enriched his values for life. Mace Windu, who was played by Samuel L. Jackson, specially requested a purple lightsaber since he was rarely on screen. This was to make his character somewhat more unique, and it would better help others see his character in big fight scenes. Mike Tyson had a pet tiger for about 16 years, but he says he was forced to sell her because she got too old and I had to get rid of her when her eyes and her head got bad. Oh, and she ripped somebody's arm off. The Cuban Missile Crisis began when a CIA operative noticed a soccer field on a Cuban military base. It was strange because, as he put it, Cubans play baseball, Russians play soccer. In 2016, a Stanford study found a positive correlation between the use of profanity and honesty. Those who swear tend to be more honest. Daniel Radcliffe is a recovering alcoholic and would sometimes go on to the Harry Potter set still drunk from the night before. The creator of The Sims, Will Wright, created the game after his house caught fire and he lost all of his material possessions in 1997. He then rebuilt his life, and the fire gave him the idea of making a game where players managed a suburban household. Iron Man was created by Stan Lee as a challenge to create someone no one should like, but get people to eventually like him. Phyllis from The Office would pay her bills and do Christmas shopping online from the office computers in the background. Japan has one of the highest cremation rates in the world. The country reports that it has a cremation rate of 99.97%. It's partly due to financial reasons, spatial benefits, and it's easier for families to organize. A theme park in France employs ravens to clear the park of cigarette butts in return for bird food or other treats. In 2016, a legally blind hoarder whose son had not been seen in 20 years was found to have been living with the corpse. He was a fully clothed skeleton upstairs and was found with garbage and cobwebs. She thought the son had simply moved out. Many people, including Abraham Lincoln, believed he was ugly. Once, when accused of being two-faced, he responded with, "If I had 2 faces, would I be showing you this one?" In 2016, an Alabama bloodhound joined a half marathon after her owner had let her out to go pee. She ran the entire course, 13.1 miles, and finished 7th. Usain Bolt was offered a position in the NFL to play wide receiver, but turned it down since he was concerned about the amount of hits the players take. It is illegal under German law to deny the Holocaust, which is punishable up to 5 years in prison. The movie Paranormal Activity only had a budget of $15,000 but made $194 million. During screening, people were walking out early. Executives thought it was because the film was bombing. It was actually because they were too scared. Breeding panda bears is extremely hard and requires a global cooperation because male pandas exhibit no sexual drive, and females are only fertile up to 3 days a year. One method to encourage the mating pandas is panda porn. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs delivered the equivalent of 21 to 921 billion Hiroshima atomic bombs, created a hole 30 kilometers deep. J.R.R. Tolkien, author of Lord of the Rings, had a son, Michael, who signed up for the army. When it asked for his father's occupation, he wrote wizard. If a pregnant woman gets organ damage, the baby in her womb sends stem cells to help repair the organ. Scientists believe that the function of zebra stripes is to deter insects. A team of researchers painted black and white stripes on cows and found that it reduced the number of biting flies landing on them by more than 50%. During the Great Depression, a businessman had managed to convince struggling families in Florida to buy Coca-Cola shares. The town is now filled with secret Coca-Cola millionaires. The scientists who discovered the platypus thought it was fake at first. European scientists assumed an egg-laying, duck-billed, beaver-tailed, otter-footed, venomous mammal had to be an elaborate hoax. In the 1936 Olympics, 2 Japanese pole vaulters tied for second place and refused to participate in a tiebreaker. Upon returning to Japan, they cut their medals in half and fused them to the other, so both ended up with a half bronze, half silver medal. During World War II, the British government bought more tea than it did artillery shells and explosives. The man who patented the Ouija board, Elijah Bond, has an Ouija board headstone. The Titanic had binoculars on board, but they were locked in a box, and nobody could access it since nobody had the key. It's been said that had they managed to use the binoculars, the disaster could have been avoided. The creator of Jaws, Peter Benkley, was so regretful of the anti-shark agenda coming from the film, he later went on to advocate for marine conservation and become an activist in protecting sharks. Cleveland once released 1.4 million balloons to break a world record, but in doing so caused a closed airport, injured horses, traffic collisions, and a contribution to the death of 2 fishermen. Nintendo has intentionally made their game cartridges for the Nintendo Switch disgusting so children and pets will not accidentally swallow them. A blue whale's heart can weigh in excess of 1,300 pounds and be the size of a small car. Their hearts beat at a rate of 8 to 10 beats per minute and can be heard from over 2 miles away. A man had managed to change the color of a chicken's egg yolk to red, naturally. The secret: he fed chickens high carotenoid red peppers. Here's proof. In 1971, burglars broke into an FBI office by writing a note that said, "Please don't lock this door tonight," and plastering it onto the front door. It worked and they stole several files. The US had to abandon construction of a border fort in New York State after realizing that they'd accidentally built it on the Canadian side of the border. It was promptly nicknamed Fort Blunder.